What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the 10-7 MMA show. Today, I'm joining you for the first few minutes early, or on time, I suppose, and Justin will be here shortly. He's just finishing up a training session. So we'll kind of let people pile in and join in as we get ready to talk about a lot of fun stuff. A lot of crazy things have gone down in the last week. Now, something that I'm going to talk to Justin a little bit more about once he joins the show is it's topic number 6. It's the last topic we're going to talk about, but you guys must be hearing about this drama between Henry Cejudo and the UFC and Jason Herzog in particular, where he had this crazy eye poke. We talked about it a little bit on Monday. And dream fight, Justin Gaethje versus Justin James. You saw that. And there's been all this crazy controversy. I can't wait to get Justin on here because I made a video about it last night, gave my 2 cents. Henry Cejudo grilled Jason Herzog on his show, which was wild. I can't believe it's not everywhere that happened. I don't know if that's ever happened before. But I want to get Justin's take on the whole ordeal as a fighter now that we hear Jason Herzog's reaction and response. MGAL4 Production says, yeah, Henry confronted Jason, but nobody's going to do anything to fix it. I don't know about that. I could see the UFC eventually doing something, or the commission or whatnot. Look, I think it's pretty easy to fix. And yes, I do live in LA. I think this problem is pretty easy to fix. You guys tell me if you agree or disagree. Eye pokes are currently, for whatever reason, at least what Dana White says, is that it must be intentional to deduct a point. I don't know if that's in the official rule set or not, because Jason Herzog said in retrospect he should have taken a point for whatever reason. But it's just, there's certain, think about it in criminal law. There's certain crimes and there's certain offenses that are strict liability, because it's really easy. What's up, Celine? It's really easy in certain places to be like, hey, if intent is one of the criteria to be culpable for a crime, and it's really hard to show intent or prove intent, or it's easy to have plausible deniability, we just make it a strict liability offense. I mean, if you just think about it from the legal standpoint, if you guys don't know this, I'm an attorney, barred and licensed in California. I just don't practice anymore. But I passed the bar back in 2009. So it's been quite a long time since I graduated law school. But if you view it from the same stance, from the same standpoint, this, when have we ever been, when has ever a ref been like, that's an intentional eye poke? He was clearly trying to gouge his eyes out. I mean, have you guys ever seen that? It's more of, all right, we gave you a warning. You're still putting your fingers out. That's still not intentional. That's now we've warned you and you're not correcting your behavior. So just get rid of this intent element. Get that out of there and just say it's a strict liability offense. You're going to do your best to not commit the foul. But if you commit the foul, whether intentionally or not, you get the penalty, because that guy's got the damage. He's suffering the damage. It's a done deal. So to me, that makes a lot of sense in terms of how we should approach it. Just make it strict liability, and that will correct the behavior. People will, and that's what I'm not new to say this. So many fighters have been saying this, that will inevitably correct the behavior, because people are not going to want to commit that violation. Let me just throw up the topic here, since we're now fully talking about it, and we'll continue with Justin Joyce later on in the show. Okay, so let me read some of these comments. Dana doesn't care at all. That's the problem. You're going to move to Palos Verdes. That's cool. Dana doesn't care. I think Dana does care at some point. I think he didn't care in this instance because he doesn't like Henry. He doesn't like the way Henry reacted. So he's not going to have a discussion about, hey, points should be taken when he's upset about the way the fight ended. He feels obviously that Henry should have continued to fight, I think, and that he basically, for whatever reason, jumped off when and, you know, we made this point. Justin, I'm going to mute you until you get settled. We made this point. Justin just finished sparring, guys. He's got his fight next week coming up. Holy smokes, 1 week from today, which is wild. But anyways, I think if it's the right fighter and, you know, that somebody that Dana and the UFC really wants to win, they get eye poked, he might change his perspective. Look, it's a very easy thing to fix. It's simple, I think. I don't see what the downsides are. You make it a strict liability offense anytime somebody gets poked, and it's not, I'm not talking about a knuckle going in or a finger going in from a punch, but a clear eye poke. They're reviewing it on replay. Usually they give the fighter a break. If they go back and they review it, you're getting a point deduction. Sorry, that's how it goes. Because I'm unmuting you now. Because the other guy who suffered the eye poke is now compromised for the rest of the fight. If Henry would have pushed through and tried to actually fight, had one eye would have been blurry. His depth perception would have been thrown off. Yes, we've seen the likes of DC and Stipe, when they both eye poked each other, continue on and fight. That's legendary, but it's not fair. And me as a fan, I want to see a fair fight. I don't think it's fair that somebody's getting an eye poke and you get a warning, you get a break, and then you get back in there. You know, Justin, we jumped ahead to topic 6 because I made a video yesterday about this whole Cejudo thing. Now I don't know if you had a chance to watch it, but he got Jason Herzog on there. Jason Herzog even admitted in retrospect that he should have taken a point. So what a G that he has the balls and the strength of character to admit that. But I know we talked a little bit about fake eye pokes being a problem, but I mean, where do you stand now on this notion of so many people have been saying that, hey, just make it a penalty regardless of intent? Where do you stand on that for an eye poke?
Well, here's the thing: when then you got people trying to play that game of, oh, I got eye poked and it should be, because I mean, there's intentional and there's unintentional. You look at someone like John Jones, who's a reoccurring fouler at eye pokes, man. The way he blocks his defense, he's reaching his hands straight. Now, I feel if someone's posting, their fingers are straight up, I mean, it's unintentional. And and you have to also realize is every eye poke, if they judge every eye poke as a point deduction, I mean, we're talking about livelihood in the UFC. All right, we're talking about you get a point deducted and you lose that fight, you can get cut from the UFC. You're only getting half your pay in the UFC because of an unintentional eye poke. I think that's a little harsh. Now, going on to a second, third offense, all right, something needs to be done. And, that's one thing I love about Jason Herzog is I think he's the best ref in the UFC. And the reason I think he's the best ref because nobody talks about him. You hear about Herb Dean of always being under scrutiny, Mario Yamasaki and, all these other great refs. They make mistakes, and someone did a thing like, I can't remember, they did a stat on Herb Dean of all his missed calls and all his 0-point deductions and all his warnings, and you never hear anybody talk about Jason Herzog. And I think as long as a referee's staying out of the media like Jason does, Jason was a ref of mine, man, and I think he's a great ref, and I don't think he makes many mistakes, and when he does make a mistake, he owns it, and he did this, and he should have took a point away after the second. I think if it's the second foul, then I don't think the first one should be. I don't, because mistakes can be made. That's just like my opponent in my last fight. I don't think he intentionally stuck his thumb in my eye, but it did happen. And I think he was trying to throw a clean strike, and it just is the way it is. And after reviewing with technology we have right now, and how we can review and make sure all the calls get right, even in the NFL right now. Talking about first down markers, they're using a laser. They call it like the eagle eye or something. That they're going to start using a laser that crosses the plane, so there can't be referee error anymore. And with technology coming across and reviews the way that we can do it now, we can stop and review from 100 different angles. I mean, I think that needs to be taken more effect. And then you're going to look at this and you're going to be like, oh well, some of these guys are going to fake eye pokes to get longer breaks. Now you look at this, is say I punch a guy in the eye clean in his knuckle, and I go back and, oh, he poked me in the eye, and we review it, under your rule set, or what you're asking for is if there should be a point deduction for every time there's an eye poke. But what if there is an eye poke, or a guy thinks there's an eye poke, we review it and it's not an eye poke? Does that guy get a point taken away now?
No, definitely not. Like the point would get deducted maybe after the review.
Right. Well, that's what I mean. After the review, let's say we review it and it's a clean punch, and the knuckle bone and the glove goes in the eye, but the guy steps back. He poked me in the eye, and we review and it's not an eye poke. Do we take a point from the guy that was hurt in an exchange? You know what I mean? So there's a fine line we have to play there. We can't just side one side every time there's an eye poke. There's a point deduction, because again, there's circumstance. And I think with circumstance of that state, because then you have to place fair on both sides. And if it's a fake eye poke, I mean, there's been plenty of times to where I see a guy get clean punched and the referee stops it and they review it, and you'll hear Joe Rogan be like, oh, that was actually a clean punch. And as a fighter, you don't know, like you just feel something going to your eyeball, and a lot of times you're like, oh, that was a finger, and then you review and it wasn't. Or what if it's this knuckle? What if I punch you like this?
Right.
Like, is that an eye poke? No, it's not an eye poke. That's a clean punch. This is an eye poke. This is not an eye poke.
Right.
So again, there's a silver lining there that needs to be thought out, and I don't think just making it mandatory that an eye poke requires a point deduction, because then you have to play both sides, and if you take a point away from somebody, that can change their life.
I agree. It can change their life. I feel like there's got to be a middle ground where you can, again, maybe the problem would be with the quote unquote fake one where you think it is and it's not. Maybe you get a break, but then you just say, oh, no, it wasn't an eye poke, so no point deduction, but you can still take a pause. Like if you legit think you got hit in the head, hit in the eye. Now, there could also be some perhaps discrepancy allowed for the referee to say, all right, if that was an egregious fake one, then maybe we can take a point or something like that. But I don't know. Maybe it's more prevalent than I know of. By the way, I want to highlight a couple comments. So Robert, just throwing it out there, he doesn't agree with you, Justin. But I think I think you make some really interesting points as well. That
what doesn't he agree with?
I think he doesn't agree with I think he was agreeing with me saying that yes, the eye pokes should be strict liability. Essentially, like if it happens, even with the potential problems, that there should be a point deducted, almost certainly.
So again, what happens when it's when you think it's an eye poke and it's not? And you get 5 minutes to recover, and as they're reviewing it, your face is recovering, your head is recovering. Why if me and you are fighting and you hit me with a clean punch and the referee stops it because I think you poked me in the eye, why do I get a break when you're about to finish me? You're about to finish the fight, but now I get a 5-minute break as you guys review. I totally disagree, and I mean it doesn't really matter. If you agree with me or not, but again, you have to play both sides. Why do I get a break if I get damaged? Why do I get a break? And again, it could be a finishing sequence. I might hit you with a big cross and a knuckle goes in the eye, and now the referee stops it. Now I get to recover.
Yeah, Pern looks like he agrees with you. He is ready. We give the guy a break in the action. I think there's got to be some middle ground, but that's why this is an interesting conversation. And hopefully what comes out of it is the UFC is improved overall for whatever those protocols are. Okay, MGAL4 Productions, I've been wanting to show you this question. He asked it a while ago. Justin, what's worse? I think I know the answer, but what's worse, a groin strike or an eye poke?
Man, it's tough to say, man. The thing with the eye poke are, when you get poked in the eye, you have all those germs and bacteria and sweat from your fingers, from your fingernails. You might get a small laceration. I mean, a groin strike, you have 5 minutes to recover, and they're both terrible. So let's just get that right out the way. They're both terrible. But honestly, an eye poke, because a lot of times your vision's going to be blurred, and as a fighter, you don't want to quit. And if you quit in the middle of a round and you end the fight and you lose the fight because of an eye poke, I mean, that's devastating. Or you're compromised and you have a blur. I mean, I've been poked in the eye and get sweat in the eyeball, and my vision is blurred, and I'm like, I'm like trying to shake it out, and like you saw my last fight where I got thumbed in the eye, and I'm like fighting like this for the next the minute 30 seconds, and I get knocked out. So if I had, man, I mean, they're so close, but I'm gonna say an eye poke is more compromising because your vision might be compromised for the rest of the fight. With a groin strike, although they're devastating and hurt, usually not every time, after a couple minutes you can recover almost to 100%.
That's what I figured. And that's what I figured was the answer. This story has been so crazy, and I'm actually glad it's getting attention because the eye poke thing has always bothered me. And maybe it's not going to go exactly the way that I'm saying, and maybe it's not going to go exactly the way you're saying, but hopefully there'll be some middle ground, some compromise will improve. So situations like this don't happen again. Justin, one last thing before we move on. This is something, man, God, I heard Henry Cejudo say on his show, and I pointed out in my video yesterday. He said on camera, and it's out there for everybody. He said, man, Jason, you really messed up, and that cost me. He said he lost $150,000. That was what his win bonus was. He got $350 to show. He was going to get $150 to win. So he's saying he lost that $150 money, which he did. I get that, but mistakes are going to happen. And God, Jason's trying to do his best. But then what he said, he goes, I've been talking to a lot of people, and they're saying I might have a lawsuit on my hands, and because of what happened, because of all this stuff. And I'm like, dude, I don't know what your experience is with this, but I was just thinking Henry's talked about how he thinks Dana White doesn't like him. He's trying to mend fences with the UFC and build a relationship. And then he mentions that he's contemplating a lawsuit against them, which he probably doesn't even have grounds 1.001% to even have any reasonable chance of a lawsuit. But like, I mean, your take as a fighter used to be in the UFC. I mean, what do you, it's just like, dude, who told you to say this? Like, what's your take on him saying this publicly?
I mean, here's the thing. Henry Cejudo is one of the all-time greats. Whether you like him or not, he's the king of cringe. He's our former flyweight champion. He's the former bantamweight champion. I've met Henry a bunch of times. And, dude, he's a nice guy, man. I like him a lot. I think he is so intelligent in the sport. But, as MMA chews all of us up and spits all of us out. There's very few people that end their career on top. I can only think of George St. Pierre, Habib being two of, like, I can't really think of two. I mean, I know there are others, but off the top of my head, I can think of two out of millions of fighters that have come through the 90s up until now. Henry Cejudo, unfortunately, he's on his way out right now. I mean, it'd be a good way to collect another paycheck. I mean, what? But I mean, being Henry Cejudo, and I think, I don't know, man. It comes down to collecting a big paycheck, getting that extra 150, maybe even a little more, or staying in Dana White's good graces. I mean, it just really comes down to what's more important to him. Um, how is he financially? If he's financially set, like, I'd talk to Dana, and I wouldn't be like, hey, I'm gonna sue you, because I'll tell you something I do know for a fact. The UFC has the best lawyers, and they have more money than anybody, and you will not. I mean, they'll just keep delaying court and just
Mhm.
keep making you give you more costs.
Yep.
And I'm going to talk about Chaz Bowling, the biggest crook piece of shit manager in the business. He was my manager, Chaz Bowling, you piece of shit. All right. This is how much of a crook he is. All right. What he did to me on my UFC debut. He never got me into the UFC. He never got me a fight. He never got me a single sponsor. I asked to be released from his management company. He agreed. I signed with the UFC, and since I wrote him a letter of intent to move on from his bullshit trash management company. At one time, him and Monty Cox had a good company back in the early 2000s, but when I was with him, they were trash. All right. Well, when I made my bonus, he messaged me and he said, "Hey, it's a longer story than this, but I'm going to keep it short." He
Yeah.
says, "Hey, you owe us 30,000, or in order for me to be released, I needed to pay him 20% of my first 3 fights in the UFC." And he said, if I didn't sign or agree to those terms, that he wasn't going to release me, and I wouldn't be able to go to the UFC. So,
Oh my
put between
God.
a rock and a hard place. I had my opportunity to get to the UFC, so I was like, oh fuck, do I sign this or do I not? Well, then, if you guys know, I had a knockout bonus. I made 80,000 on my first fight, and he wrote me an invoice to pay him $30,000. And I talked to him. I'm like, dude, you don't deserve any of this. You've never got me a fight. You never got me a sponsor. You're a effing crook, Chaz Bowling. You're an effing crook. And I'll say that to. And if you have a problem, you can say it to my face, and I'll slap the shit out of you. I had to write this guy a check for 30,000, and if he said I didn't, he was going to drag me through the courts and take every single dollar I owned. More than the UFC I made. I was going to take money out of my pocket and make sure that I didn't make another dollar for the rest of my career. And unfortunately, I had to write him a check for 30 grand. So, when it comes to court and stuff like that, when you got people that have a good lawyer, and they have, and they're sketchy people like Chase Bowling, like, I'm telling you, I'm going to keep repeating his name because I want everybody to know Chase Bowling is the biggest. Chaz Bowling is the biggest piece of crook shit ever. Him and Monty Cox was relatively reasonable, but I want everybody to know, and hopefully this gets back to him one day. People that have money and people that have better lawyers will drag their feet long enough to run you out of money.
They will. But you know what? I bet you that guy doesn't even have that much money. You just needed a couple friends who were attorneys and that could have your back and help you. Because I bet you he didn't even have the capital to push as
Well,
hard as what he was
so
trying
I
to.
guess he did it with Robbie Lawler. So he used to manage Robbie Lawler
Uh-huh.
back in the day. Robbie Lawler and I don't know the full story,
Mhm.
but requested to leave their business, and so I don't know the particulars of it, but that's what he did with Robbie. He drug him through court until he took all his money.
Dude, that's crazy. It sucks when that's abuse of the legal system, in my opinion, when you do it that way and you basically, I mean, it happens all the time. I used to be, when I was a corporate patent attorney, I mean, you see it with companies do it to each other all the time, bully each other with their reservoir patents and threaten lawsuits and file lawsuits and go through, spending millions of dollars on both sides. It ends up doing nothing for the businesses. It's just like maliciously attacking each other, and it's just the lawyers get paid at the end of the day. It's so bizarre. The whole system is messed up. But anyways, yeah, that's a shame. And that guy's crazy, man. Trying to bully and do this
I
to
can't I
fighters.
can't wait to see him face to face. When I
Well,
see him public face to face, I'm going to humiliate him.
but doesn't he like? It's just such a weird game to be in, where you're doing this to fighters. Like, isn't he probably looking over his shoulder all the time? The way he treats fighters, that's crazy.
Just a fat piece of shit. If you know Jared Brooks fights for one championship, he fought in the UFC for a while. Jared Brooks is an incredible fighter. I think at one point at one time he was the best 125 pounder in the whole world.
Mm.
I mean, man, he had some incredible fights in the UFC. Chaz still manages him. I don't know how he does, because Jared's such a great, smart kid. But Chaz Bowling is the one of the biggest crooks I've ever met in my whole life, and I cannot wait to see him face to face.
Dang, that's crazy. All right, well, Chaz, I don't know if you're listening or not, but yeah.
I'm gonna clip it and send it to him.
Hey, let's do it. Okay. All right, let's jump in. Now, Justin, there's been so many announcements since our Monday show. We're going to start off at the top with, oh, yeah, somebody, I think it was MGAL4 Production, said at one point, hey, we need to book Justin Gaethje versus Justin James. Let's go. Oh, wait.
Boom.
We got a couple. Robert has a couple more. Hold on, let me see this. Robert says most of them look after UFC's interests over clients. He's talking
Oh
about
yeah, for sure,
Manfred.
for sure.
And look how Aljamain's manager made him fight. That's crazy too. By the way, I didn't even think about that. Oh, that's so sad if that happened. Anyways, all right, let's talk about your favorite fighter, Gaethje versus Fiziev. I gave my thoughts in a video on Wednesday, and I'll give them again briefly, and then I want to hear your thoughts. Most people seem to be happy for this fight and are excited for it. I guess I'm in the minority. Now, I'll tell you why I'm not so excited. One, it's a rematch. You talked about not liking rematches. This is a rematch. Justin already won. I just don't see the point. Will it be a fun fight? Yeah, but it just feels so unfair to Justin Gaethje, who's a legend. Why does he have to fight an up-and-comer twice now? And Fiziev is a really dangerous striker. So I don't know. I want to see something that gives him forward progression. Again, he was up for a title shot against Islam, and he lost it because he took that Max Holloway fight and, had his nose broken, and we know what happened. But now it's like, again, he was going to have a potential fight that would catapult him up. Now he's taking a rematch. So I'm really, obviously I'll be watching it. I can't wait, but I just feel really bad about him having to do this. Justin, what are your thoughts? Or do you agree or disagree with me?
I mean, it's just another rematch, man. It's what we talk about, the rinse and repeat, man. And I feel bad for Gaethje, but I listened to an interview this morning. He feels if he beats Fiziev, he's right back for next in title in line, or next for the belt, man. And I mean, I don't know if I agree with that either, man. He just got brutally knocked out last year, and coming in. Oh, okay, you're stinky. Yeah, he got brutally knocked out last year by Max Holloway, coming in and beating a guy that he's already beat. How does that put him back in title contention in one fight? Now you look at Justin Gaethje; he's at the end of his career, man. Like, are they using him as a stepping stone? He's an underdog in this fight. I think he's a plus 120 going into this fight, man. I mean, this is a dangerous fight for him, especially recovering after being brutally knocked out like he was. Fiziev is going to be hungry, and you know what I always say. It's like it's so hard to beat somebody of Justin Gaethje's or of Fiziev's caliber twice in a row, man. And man, I don't feel good about it. I just don't feel good about it. And Justin said today, if he goes out there and he gets knocked out like he did against Max Holloway, it will be his retirement fight. And you know what? Like Fiziev can do that, and he does have the power to do that. I'm really concerned about this fight.
Yeah. So, and just by the way, Fiziev is on a 2-fight losing streak. His last fight was September 23rd, 2023. I'm concerned as well. However, I listened to 2 Justin Gaethje interviews last night. Justin Gaethje is one of my favorite people to listen to in interviews.
Me too.
He's just honest, passionate. He tells it like it is. He's got a very intellectual approach to the game. Now, one thing that makes me feel more confident is that he's talking about how he took 6 months where he didn't take a single shot. He let his brain completely recover. He says he feels better than ever because I know fighters say this all the time, but just when Justin says it's different, he's like, it's true. I think so. I think so. I don't know. I just hear the sincerity. I believe in his voice, but he said he's really taken the time to let his brain recover. And he said, that's one thing about, this was cool. Actually, he said, that's one thing why mixed martial arts is less dangerous than football and these other sports, because you get time off. You can take time to recover. You can schedule your next fight 6 months or a year down the line if need be. And that's basically what he's done. And again, it goes down to, people call him chaotic in the ring, but he's so controlled. And I feel like he's in command of his emotions outside of fighting. Maybe he wanted to get back in there, but he didn't let himself get back in there early on. So he seems really in a really good spot. I'm actually feeling confident that he's going to get this win. Plus, Fiziev is off a 2-fight losing streak. I don't know. That's what I think. But I am excited to see the fight. I mean, what do you think about this fight just as a matchup, as a fun fight?
I mean, it's going to be a fun fight. I'm just such a Gaethje fan, man, and I just would hate to see him go out there and lose to an up and comer that he's already beat. I think it's just my emotions talking the best. I mean, it's going to be a fun fight. There's going to be fireworks. Justin Gaethje took Fiziev down in the first fight. I think that's his first takedown in the UFC. Because people always criticize him for not taking guys down.
Yeah.
But he did take Fiziev down, and when you're fighting Justin Gaethje, that's the last thing you think. Like, he's going to shoot for a takedown. So maybe. Now that he's later in his career, he's already taken Fiziev down. Like, maybe he's going to come in and have a wrestling heavy base approach so he doesn't take that damage. Because again, I don't know Justin Gaethje personally. I've only met him a handful of times. I've only trained with him once or twice. But when he comes in the room, man, he's just such a great guy. And when you have a guy like that who's fun in the ring, he's fun on the mic, he's humble, he's just a great overall guy. And when you inspire to be a fighter, like Justin Gaethje is a guy a lot of guys look up to just because he's the highlight man in and out of the ring. He's the highlight. And I just would hate for a legend like him to go in there against another up and comer they've already beaten, him get starched again. It's just that stuff breaks my heart, man. And especially guys like him. Now, there's other guys that I don't mind when it happens to, but for Justin Gaethje, I don't want to see it happen to him.
I just feel like Justin Gaethje is going to pull it off. So a couple of comments, and then we're going to go on to the next topic. 36 with age. Okay, so Robert is worried about him basically getting KO'd because he said he's 36. He had a tough beatdown last time. That's true. I mean, he had his nose broken. He still fought through that fight, which is insane because he probably couldn't breathe the entire fight. He got knocked out at 4 minutes 59 seconds of round 5. So it was the KO at the very end. But I get what you're saying. Pern says, is it dangerous to be that tough?
Long term. So check this out. I mean, I'm going to talk about my opponent Lloyd Mix coming up just for a second here. So as you guys know, I'm fighting Bellator veteran Lloyd Mix. Went to decision with Michael Chandler. Back in the day, Lloyd was he's still tough, but back in the day, he's 39 years old. He was super tough. And, we follow each other on Instagram. We have a huge mutual respect for each other. But he posted a video yesterday and he's like, he's at his gym and he's training. And he's like, hey man, Lloyd Mix here. Get ready for my fight March 17th. Be there, be square. I was like, Lloyd, we're fighting March 7th, bro. And I watched the video 3 or 4 times. Oh, maybe I misunderstood him. And then I comment, I was like, hey dude, I'm showing up March 7th. And then he says something like, you're nothing but a reader, which I don't know what that means. He's like, if you show back up on the 17th, I'll be happy to give you a free ass whooping. Just come to my, and I was just like, dude, what you're saying doesn't make any sense. Then he posted a video today of just him back with, it's a black screen and him talking in the background. And man, it's in I'm going to go out and I'm going to do serious damage to him. And, he already is punch drunk, man. And I'm not saying that because he's my opponent. If I ever start talking like him, and again, I'm not throwing shade. I like Lloyd a lot, actually. I think he's a great fighter. He's done some incredible things in Bellator, and in bare knuckle. He's 2 or 3-0 in BKFC right now. He's fighting me for Fusion. I think he has a great staple, but the brain damage he's taken, and to listen to him talk, it's really scary, man. And then after listening to him talk in his last video, it's like, man, if I ever start talking like that, I need you, Huzefa, because my voice and my talking is what is going to be my next stage in my life. And if I ever start talking like that, you guys need to tell me, man, because I'm actually dangerous. I might kill this guy.
You're looking at it the wrong way. It's not us telling you when you start talking like that. You got to bounce before you start talking like that.
Yeah,
that's the key to it.
That's one thing I think I've done really well, and I think Justin's done really well. Justin, it's when I got knocked out in my last fight. I didn't spar. I only sparred 3 or 4 weeks for this camp. I had no head trauma from May 24th until January. And when I say head trauma, I mean when I got knocked out, I didn't take any punches for those 8 months, 9 months. And, I think that's something that has really helped because, we talk about being worried about coming back. I have no fear of being knocked out. I was really concerned about it because I've never been knocked out before. I got knocked out my last fight and I was like, man, I think in my next fight, I hope I'm not worried about it. So when Justin Gaethje says he's feeling great, he's feeling good, I believe him because that's how I feel right now too, just getting knocked out in my last fight.
Right on. Well, there we go. Hold on, a couple other comments, and then we're going to move on. Support from Puerto Rico, 10-7, let's go. Carolina City. Okay, cool. I've never been there. And what does MCAL for Protection say? It says Justin Gaethje, Justin James at 1. He wants you guys to fight.
I tell you what, I do. What a dream fight that would be, man. And obviously, I'm not a caliber fighter of Justin Gaethje. I can openly admit that at 35 years old. Probably in my prime, I wasn't. But I tell you what, there's one thing I'm not afraid of, and that's to sling him, man. And whether I win or lose, I'm gonna fucking sling him, and that's just what it is.
All right, now moving on to topic number 2. Not your favorite fighter, but one of your boys, Jamahal Hill, is finally announced against Khalil Rountree, the fight we wanted a year ago. And after seeing Khalil have that crazy performance against Alex Pereira, I am over the moon about this fight. I cannot wait. And I like that Jamahal Hill's jumping back in. He said on his podcast, which I watched earlier this week, that he might say, hey, people might think this is a quick turnaround, but I want to get back in there. And he thinks that one of the reasons why he was knocked out by Yuri is because he was a little rusty. He didn't have it, he had too long of a layoff. So that's why he wants to get right back in there and fight Khalil ASAP. What do you think about this fight?
Don't like it, man. I don't like it.
Really?
Don't like it. I mean, from a fan perspective, I like it. Love Jamahal Hill, Michigan boy. fucking good, good friend of mine. I have to say, I don't have many UFC champions I can call friend. Jamahal Hill, I consider him a friend, man. And it's really I didn't feel good about his last fight. His whole fight camp, all he talked about is Alex Pereira, and it's like, dude, you have a very tough opponent in front of you. You need to get off. We need to get off what already happened. And I'm
Yeah.
really concerned that, he's gonna be, oh, after I beat Khalil, me and Alex, we're gonna have to run it back and blah blah blah. It's like, dude, when we talk about John Jones, fighting Stipe, John Jones avoided every conversation, fighting Tom Aspinall, because that's what greats do, and that's what goats do, man. And I'm not ragging on Jamahal Hill, because obviously I love him, man, but he was so sidetracked with Alex Pereira. You just look at the buildup from look at the buildup in John Jones and Stipe compared to Jamahal Hill and Yuri. The whole time people are asking John Jones, trying to distract him almost intentionally or unintentionally. But John kept, nope, not happening. Nope, not happening. Nope, not happening. Then he fights, beats Stipe. Okay, now I'm open to it.
Mhm.
Jamahal Hill fighting Yuri. Oh, they're already asking about the rematch with Alex. And that was the problem. They're asking about the rematch with Alex. And he hasn't even beat Yuri yet. And he goes out and gets knocked out. Now he has a quick turnaround. And you know what? Losing and getting knocked out can be a snowball effect, and that's the problem. That's why I'm worried about Jamahal. This is a quick turnaround. He has a stud of an opponent in front of him. If he
Yeah.
gets knocked out again, where does he go? He's still going to be dreaming about Alex, and I'm just really concerned about that.
Okay, that's a fair concern, and I get it from your friend's perspective. But yeah, as from a fan's perspective, if we back out, zoom out a little bit, I do think this fight's going to be amazing. I guess we'll have to see. And he's got such a tough opponent, Khalil Rountree. Holy smokes, what a legend! We got a couple of comments. MGAL4 Production says, "Yeah, Jamahal has had a lot of injuries. Yeah, that's true too. He seems, at least when he talks about it, fully recovered from. I think he tore his Achilles. I can't remember exactly what that basketball injury was." Robert G says, "You don't back your boy." No, he's backing his boy because he's showing concern for him. I think that's the
I'm
point.
concerned about him, man. I back him,
Yeah,
of course. I'll go to war with him. I'm not going to
yeah,
sit here and lie. Like, I'm not going to sit
yeah,
here and lie about my opinion, man. I'm not just going to stroke my friends.
yeah,
There's been plenty of guys, and I don't think he'd be mad about me telling the truth.
yeah.
Jamahal Hill's great. He's a world champion caliber fighter. But if you're distracted, man, and you make one wrong step, it only takes one punch, man, and I'm not speaking because Jamahal got knocked out in one punch. I'm speaking because a lot of fighters, you move left and when you should have moved right, or you dip when you're supposed to weave. They always, oh, I bob when I should have leave. Like, I know we laugh and make a joke about that, but that's the
Yeah.
difference between getting knocked out and winning a fight, man. And if Jamahal Hill is not focused, like, that's one thing Khalil Rountree is. He's gonna be focused for this fight. He knows if he loses Jamahal Hill, he's gonna be shot back into maybe 5 through 10 in the rankings. He understands how important this is, and I want Jamahal Hill to understand how important this match is, because if you look, Khalil beat Alex Pereira in round 1 and round 2.
Yeah.
All right. If
Crazy.
Khalil goes in there and handles Jamahal Hill, Jamahal Hill is going to be a top 10, top 15 fighter again, and he's going
Mhm.
to have to win 2, 3 fights to even think about Alex. And
Yeah.
I just don't want him not focused and talking about Alex when he has a tough task in front of him, like Khalil Rountree.
No, that's a 100% fair
It's not
point.
about backing. I can see him, oh, Jamal's going to kill him. No, it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
I've said in this podcast before, guys. Like, dude, look at what happened at my place of work. I'm in Eric Nixick's office right now, man. It's my boss, and all hell broke loose for a while because of I put my true opinion of with him and Sean Strickland out there. Everybody at the gym lost their mind. This podcast isn't about stroking or backing my boys. This is about me being honest with the information I have and the experience I have. And I love Jamahal Hill, and I want him to win. I want him to be the world champion. But if he's not focused, he might have a rough night in front of him.
Speaking of being in Eric Nixick's office, MGAL4 Production says, "Love the poster of Strickland winning the world title in the background." Yeah, it's so funny. It's right back up there with Nixick. And that's also Francis Ngannou, right? On the wall,
Yeah,
too.
yeah. Francis right there, Sean on the left, and
Yeah,
Francis on the bottom. Dude,
yeah.
Eric's such a great guy and a great coach, man. He's had so many great memories in the UFC, and he's going to continue, man. Like, I think me and him and I's relationship stronger than ever. I haven't seen Sean
Hmm.
since, but Eric's a great guy. He's a great manager. He's a great coach, and I'm even glad that I can sit in his office and have these podcasts.
Legend. Okay, let's keep it going. We got much more to talk about. Holy smokes. I said this on the video. I love this fight for all the wrong reasons. Bryce Mitchell has his next matchup is announced, and it's pretty quick. It's on April 12th, UFC 314. He's fighting Jean Silva. Now, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Jean Silva. I made a video about this matchup, or a couple of the new announcements, but I included this. And I rewatched Jean Silva against what's that dude? Oh my god, I'm blanking on his name. But I rewatched his last 2 fights. His very last fight was against Bogsadarian. Yo, Jean Silva. Justin, do you know much about Jean Silva?
I've seen a couple of his fights. I know he's a huge favorite in this fight, and I'm going to give you my opinion once you tell your story.
I don't think well, I don't know if he's a huge favorite. Well, I mean,
Huge,
look,
bro. Bryce Mitchell's plus 400.
what? But Bryce Mitchell has a massive ground advantage. Okay, well, that's crazy. I did not realize that. But anyways, if you go back and watch John Silva's fight, there it is, Drew Dober. His fight against Drew Dober was crazy, and then he rocked Bogdasarian, if I'm saying that name right, in the first round, 4 minutes left. That was wild, with it's just a beautiful straight cross. His Muay Thai, and he's a Muay Thai background guy, so of course I love him. He's having fun in there. He's high fiving, he's smiling. So I can't wait for this fight. But anyways, take it away. How do you think this is going to go down?
Man, I think this is the UFC setting Bryce Mitchell up. Dana White openly spoke about how Bryce Mitchell is one of the dumbest people he's ever heard talk. And the more I listen to Bryce Mitchell about his flat earth and about religion and about like all this crazy nonsense, like this guy is an idiot, man. And I'm not saying he's a bad guy. Don't get me wrong. You can be stupid and still be a good guy. I think Bryce Mitchell has a good heart. I think he means well. But when you have Sean Strickland going on a podcast or on his phone, starting with, listen, guys, you know how he always starts his videos in his phone. Listen, guys, Bryce, I need to educate you. When you have Sean Strickland educating you about something, you're a freaking idiot. You know what I mean? And Sean's right. And the things he's saying is right. You know, and listen, dude, the earth is not flat, bro. Like this is just craziness. Like it's and Bryce Mitchell, man, I'm sure he actually I'm not I am sure he's a good guy, and I am sure he has a good heart, and he has a good heart. And I think he means well. I just think he's uneducated. And I think with some of the things, and I mean, Hitler was a probably good guy before he got on meth. It's like, I know a lot of guys on meth, and they're all still good guys. They don't turn to a bad guy just because they got on meth. I'm not saying that
Oh,
you should do meth, but I mean that's what he said. He goes, "Oh, Hitler's a guy I'd like to drink beer with," or something like this before he was on meth. And it's like, dude, he killed millions and millions of people, and it's like that's not a good guy. And for Bryce to come out and say something as outrageous as that is just it just shows that he's just uneducated, man. And I think this is the UFC saying, "Hey, look, you spoke a little too much, and now we have to quiet you down."
now, Andrew Nance, who seems to be a big Bryce Mitchell fan, he says, "Hey, so what about what he talks about? He can fight." And he also said, "Let's effing go, Bryce." So he's a big Bryce Mitchell fan. I mean, it's kind of crazy when you think about the people that Bryce Mitchell has faced. He fought Ilia Topuria. He's fought what's the dude that knocked him out really badly? I can't
Josh
remember.
Emmett.
Yeah, Josh Emmett. Holy smokes, that guy is powerful. He's fought some crazy competition. So I don't know. This fight, I'm shocked the odds are that strong. But anyways, I can't wait for this fight, because even Jean Silva, who people might not be as familiar with him, but if you take a little time and watch a couple of his fights, his fighting style is so fun. So I can't wait to see what happens here. And again, I think it's perfect for Jean Silva if they are trying to build him, because it's probably the biggest fight you can get right now, because so many people are talking about Bryce Mitchell for all the wrong reasons, but he got this fight. Now he's going to get a chance to prove himself. And if Bryce wins, holy smokes, that'll be crazy too. So anyways, there you go. What a
I mean,
fight.
I don't just to clear something up. I don't hope Bryce loses by any means. I just think
Right.
putting him in such a like I don't not like the guy. I mean I don't really care for what he talks about, but he's
Yeah.
a great fighter, man. I mean he's beat some really great guys. I mean him and I share a common opponent, Charles Rosa, and he beat Charles Rosa like 30-26 or something like that. Like he's an incredible fighter. I'm not taking anything away from his fighting. Again, my relation to fighters is listening to him on the mic, listening to their interviews. Like when you're in the UFC, and that's what fans just don't understand is if you're in the UFC, I don't care who you are, you're tough. And Bryce Mitchell is exceptionally tough. And whether he wins or loses, I really don't care. But I think with his outlandish talking as of late, I think this is the UFC like doing it, trying to knock him out.
Yeah, I think so too. Okay, moving on to topic number 4. So this is just a fun one. I've heard more and more people say that Ilia needs to fight Islam next, and he should refuse any other fight against a potential contender. People talked about Arman or some other folks, and they said no, he should stand his ground and insist on fighting Islam. Also, they're saying that, hey, fine, Islam doesn't want to fight lower guys in lower weight classes. Well, Ilia is no longer in a lower weight class. He has officially moved up to 155. He's vacated the belt. He's not going to go back down. He will never return to that division. So why not schedule the fight? Which begs the question, and this is the thing that's very interesting to me. If this happens, if the UFC does end up making this fight, if Islam agrees and signs off on it, it seems like he doesn't want to, but if they do sign off on it, I got to admit, man, I'm very, very intrigued by this fight. Do you have any notions or any thoughts off the cuff of how this fight might go down?
No clue. Honestly, I have no clue. And normally I'm not. I don't like lower weight guys going up and getting an immediate title shot, especially when he has no experience at 155. But this is a special case because Ilia Topuria has knocked out Max Holloway, who has fought at 155, who's had success at 155. He's
Mhm.
beaten a lot of guys at 55. Or he beat former champ Max Holloway, knocked him out at 55. People, are, oh, the weight cut. But again, Max Holloway has knocked out Justin Gaethje, who's a title contender.
Yep.
This is a special circumstance because he's beaten top level. I'm sure if I looked at his resume, I have to look at his resume. And you can pull it up right now. But he beat Max Holloway, who's beaten Justin Gaethje. I think it deserves a title shot. I don't know how it's going to work. I saw Dustin Poirier come out and say Ilya's going to be much smaller, but he hits like a welterweight, and it doesn't matter. He can knock anybody out from 145 to 170, even being smaller, because he can generate so much power with his striking. For Dustin Poirier to say that, and to say that Ilia, can compete with Islam, that makes it more intriguing. Intriguing, just like you said, is the perfect word for this fight. I have no idea how this fight would go. And you know what? This is not a rinse and reuse fight. This is a new face. This is a
Yeah,
new
yeah, yeah,
face in the
yeah.
lightweight division. We need to push for this. We need to push more for this. Oh, you guys want to see Islam fight Justin Gaethje again? Oh, you want to see Islam fight Charles Oliveira again? Like, we've already seen the outcome of this. Let's
I
give
agree.
a new guy. And again, he might go in there and get smoked because of the size difference, but we won't know until they fight. And if Ilya can go in there and knock out Islam, that means he knocked out three legends in the UFC, and that's going to catapult him to arguably the best pound for pound fighter in the world. And I think he deserves that after knocking out Max Holloway and Volkanovski back to back.
I gotta say, I personally am warming up to this fight. I was not all about it at the beginning because I did want to see Islam instead move up to welterweight or do something along those lines, as opposed to again fight a lower weight class guy. But now that I think about it, again, Bilal's got his fight scheduled. He's gonna fight JDM in May or whenever that is, April or May. I can't remember. I think it's actually April. But now he's got that fight scheduled, so the welterweight division is on pause. Let's see. I actually do want to see this. I think that was a really compelling point that he's not a lower weight class not a lower weight class guy anymore. Now he is securely in 155. And I am curious. Plus, Ilia has a grappling background. So I don't know. It's so intriguing. Now, if you had to ask me and say you have to make a decision right now, I can't. I just would have to go with Islam because it's a number of components. Obviously, the things that he's done, the things he's accomplished, the dominance he's shown, but it's also the strength of his team, his discipline, the way he lives his life. As you've mentioned, they are so focused on being perfect always and just truly committed to the game. I would have to lean towards Islam for that reason. But man, it is intriguing. Let's see what happens. And then Islam takes that fight. If he wins, that'll be enough time for him then to maybe move up to welterweight and do what he wants to in the heavier weight divisions. Okay, well, this is going to be such a fun one. Let's see if it actually goes down, if the UFC can schedule it and get it signed. Now, moving on, we got one topic left because we already talked about Cejudo interviewing Jason Herzog. What a crazy story that is. Let's see if that gets more press and publicity. Again, massive props to Jason Herzog. Anthony Smith, we're going to end here. Now, we know the controversy between Anthony Smith and TJ Dillashaw. TJ Dillashaw was kind of clowning him, saying, how did he get the name Lionheart? He quits every time. Did he give himself that nickname? Anthony Smith was upset by that. Anthony Smith recently came onto his show or another show, I think, and said, when I listen to TJ Dillashaw, yes, he's achieved things that I could only dream of. He was incredible when he was at the top. He's a former champion. I always wanted to do that. So all of that stuff, I got to give him respect. But he's like, as soon as you show up dirty on one test, everything is thrown out the window. Now that has happened, he's like, you're beneath me. He's like, I put you beneath King Green. I put you beneath all these other fighters. Like, he basically dropped him from that top pedestal down way below all these other fighters. And he says, you should never have my name in your mouth because I'm a clean fighter. I've always fought clean. And you failed a drug test. Boom. He just lays it down hard. Now, let me give you my quick thoughts. And then I want to turn over to you as being a fighter in the UFC. And you know the deal with testing and all that stuff. But I know that they've gone back and tested TJ Dillashaw's samples from, all his samples that he submitted, all the B samples or whatever. He's came out clean everywhere, except for that one time where he was trying to get to 125, had a horrendous weight cut. And yes, he cheated. I don't see why that has to negate all of his accomplishments. Maybe Anthony Smith is pissed off and that's why he's saying this, but I feel like that's really unfair Because again, if you listen to TJ Dillashaw, it's not just like he took some magic pill and had these outcomes. Listen to how he thinks about the game. He is obsessive. He is committed. He trains harder than anybody at the gym. You hear all his teammates saying these things. So I feel like he earned those accomplishments. And now it's for people, other fighters especially, to say it's all thrown out the window because of one mistake that happens. I just think it's really unfair. And I don't think it's the right way to be steering public opinion towards TJ. Justin, what are your thoughts?
You know how I feel about drugs, man, and I think they should just be legal across the board. And here's the thing, you said it twice when you just were talking. You're like, I don't think he should be hindered for his one mistake. Listen, if he did it once, he's been doing it a lot. He just got caught once. And but to agree with what you're saying is I don't think his accomplishments should be taken away. This guy, it's like Lance Armstrong. Oh, they talked about taking his. I don't know if they did or did not, but they talked about it. Did they take his medals away?
I'm not sure. I don't.
But
Yeah.
regardless, like, dude, you know how hard it is to compete at that level. Like, it does. Listen, steroids are not to compete at that level as long as you do that. I mean, steroid. It's not a magic pill. And no offense, Huzaifa, don't take this the wrong way. If you take steroids for the next 5 years, you cannot compete in the UFC. All right.
Right.
And you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not a
I don't
magic
take
pill.
offense.
Like, it's not a magic pill that you're a magic shot that you take and all of a sudden you're a UFC fighter in 5 years or 10
Yeah.
years. Let's put you at 25 years old and you've trained from 25 to 30 and you're on juice the whole time. I mean, let's be real. Without a grappling background and a wrestling background, like, you're not going to be a UFC champion. No offense. And
Yeah.
I don't think his accomplishments that he took. That he made on juice or not should be taken away. Can people? I mean, John Jones tested dirty too, man. And why is there? He's still the greatest of all time. So I think, like, so, and that's the thing, man. That's the thing with MMA fans. They're so opinionated from fighter to fighter. It's like, okay, you think fighters should be punished, like TJ Dillashaw, should be punished for testing dirty. John Jones is tested dirty. Why does everyone still say he's the greatest of all time? Hold a
Including
standard.
sorry to cut you, but including Anthony Smith, he says it all the time. John Jones is the greatest, is the pound for pound, this and that. So what's up with that? But anyways, keep going.
Yeah, it's just like if that's your standard of great, you have to hold that across the board. Then John Jones is out of that discussion. Anderson Silva's out of that discussion. Every fight, Vitor Belfort's out of that discussion. Every fighter before USADA was in is now out of that discussion of the greatest of all time. You have to have the same standard across the board. You can't pick and choose. Oh, well, this fighter tested dirty, so he sucks. But this fighter tested dirty, but he's the greatest of all time. Like, it's if my I don't care. Like I said. I think that juice should be legal across the board. I'm open about it. I've talked about it. At 35 years old, my test levels when I got tested when I was in the UFC, my test level was like 150. Like, if you guys know anything about test, averages 600 to 900. And that was when I was 30 years old, 32 years old. So how can I compete with a 25-year-old that has a test level from 600 to 900? Their sleep is better. Their recovery is better.
Right.
They're just going to be, they're going to have more great. Like, it's just silly. It's a silly conversation. And, if you are, it's like a religious conversation. You can't, if you feel one thing about something, you can't just negate all the other things. It's like,
Yes.
if you're straight across the board, like, hey, you test dirty, you're not the greatest of all time. That's fine. I respect that, but you can't pick and choose fighter to fighter if they test dirty, that they're great or they're not just because they tested dirty. If that makes sense.
I think it makes a ton of sense. Yeah, I think you got to it's a nuanced discussion. Obviously, Anthony Smith is mad. We're going to go to, because of what TJ Dillashaw said, we're going to go to a couple comments, man. All right, so here we go. Drugs make the world go round. Andrew Dance loves the all caps. I don't know.
Andrew Nance, hey, come to Vegas, bro. We'll have a good time.
TJ is the CEO of EPO. All right. Oh, Izzy Slots is back. What's up, Izzy? It wasn't like he just failed a test. He got suspended for, he got suspended because he failed a test and because he admitted that he failed. If he didn't admit it, I think things would have actually been better, which is really sad. I like TJ Dillashaw a lot. He's one of my he might be one of my favorite podcasters to listen to. I think he gets a bad rep, and I listen to how he talks about training and how he approaches life. He's got a heart, very high work ethic, which I appreciate and can respect. So I don't know. I just feel like he gets such a bad rep. It's so annoying to me. He did quit. I think Andrew is talking about Anthony Smith, maybe. And then Pern says TJ had talent. If it takes away everything, even Hoist Gracie is out. He's talking about popping again. Okay. And then Robert said he said that Smith quits when it gets tough. Basically said that he lacks heart. I mean, I can't comment on that. I have no idea. I probably quit way earlier than anybody, right? I'm not a fighter, so I don't even feel like it makes sense for me to comment on this. I mean, you're a fan of Anthony Smith, Justin, right? You don't feel like he's a quitter.
I don't think he's a quitter, man. It's just, dude, to get what people don't understand, it's if he was a quitter, he never would have made it to the UFC, man. It's like
Yeah,
how many and that's the thing, man. People like you get to the UFC and they have a career like me, and dude, I used to get unfortunately I don't anymore, but I used to get so much hate mail about how much I suck and this and that. It's like, dude, I put my whole life behind this sport, man, and I got to be one of the best in the world. At one time I was ranked in the top 70 fighters in the whole world, and you look at Anthony Smith, who surpassed that time and time again. He's fought in the top 10 for like you can't. I mean, I know it from an outsider looking in, like, oh man, he could just persevere through that. But you have to, guys have to understand everything he did persevere through to get there. All the regional shows, all the injuries, all the training injuries that he had to persevere through. When you get in a fight in a cage, man, it's. I don't think anybody. There's only been a couple guys that I've looked at and be like, all right, that guy's a quitter, and Anthony Smith definitely isn't one of them.
yeah, I agree. You know, it's so funny when people criticize professional athletes. I mean, this happens not just in the UFC, right? It happens everywhere. NBA, that guy sucks. He's trash. And it's just such a funny thing because it's like people step outside of their own selves and their own bodies and have this almost like out of body experience where they can call somebody that's 1,000 times a better athlete than they are. They can say that that person sucks with a straight face. Like, it's so bizarre. It'd be like think it's literally equivalent to being super out of shape and obese and going to a beach where you see a super jacked dude and be like, dude, you're so fat because you're slightly less out of shape than this even more jacked person. And then you're like, you know what I mean? It actually makes no sense. Or you take the 20 smartest people on the planet, let's say hypothetically, and you put them in a battle against each other. And the person who gets 20th, who's still smarter than everybody else on the planet, you'd be like, you're a moron because you lost to it just lacks complete logic. How do people not get this? Like, isn't it?
I think, well, it's dude, like when I went home or back in September, and
Yeah.
there's this beer tent. It's called the Good Old Days Fair, and I get to go see all my friends I went to high school with. Some guys I haven't seen in 10, 15 years, and I'm not going to say the guy's name, but he comes up to me and we're talking about MMA, and he's a super tough dude, and he looks at me and he's like, I could have been in the UFC. I was like, oh yeah. He's like, yeah, but I decided to make money instead. And I was just like, okay, cool, bro. Like, it just really deterred me. It's like, let's get this straight. No, you couldn't have. So let's just throw that right out there. Because it could have been you could have made money in the UFC. And I
Of
just
course.
people don't understand how hard of a lifestyle it is, guys. Like, I never made a single dollar in MMA till I was 30 years old. I lived off $500 a week from 21 years old. $500 a week at the gym, 21 years old to 30 years old. Tell me, like, and that's just at the gym. I mean, I had private clients and gigs and stuff I did on the
Yeah.
side, and I still fought for 1,000, 2,000 bucks here and there. But I mean, I scraped the bottom of the barrel for almost 10 years, and there's plenty of guys that came in the gym that were better than me, but they do the lifestyle for a year and be like, dude, this is way too hard. I
Mhm.
can't. And that's how I got to where I got to. It's just that perseverance. And when people tell me that, oh, I could have done that, it's like, no, you couldn't have. You couldn't have went 10 years. And dude, I remember there's a couple times where I go back to home for Christmas, and I come home and I don't have any money, and I'd be eating McDonald's with gift cards for until I got my first or second paycheck, and I was fine with it because that's what I wanted to do, and it made me the person and the fighter I am today, man. It's like that perseverance it's worth its weight in gold. There's no
Yeah.
situation that you can put me in that I won't persevere through.
It's the same with entrepreneurship. This is what I tell people. People might look from afar and be like, I could have done what you did or whatever. It's like, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, hey, maybe I have like similar skills and I can do X that you do and Y that you do. But what you couldn't do is devote your entire life and put everything else on hold and pour 110% in and get up. It's the same thing. That's what you couldn't do, but that's what you think you could do, but that's what you couldn't do because you didn't do it. You know what I mean? It's the same with you. It's that entire journey. It's having the commitment and that strong mindset, especially like think about all the injuries you battled through. It's just so crazy.
Let's not
One
even worry
day,
about the injuries. Let's talk about the perseverance, financial perseverance, the
yeah,
injuries, fights falling through. Listen, the
yeah,
hardest thing for me at 35 years old, my biggest regret of this whole journey in this career, man, and it hurts me so emotionally to say this out loud because I don't say it out loud enough. And I miss
mhm,
my son's whole childhood. His whole childhood. I mean, we have an incredible relationship. We talk almost every day, and he's moving out here this year. But
mhm.
from 2012 to 2025, this year he's moving to Vegas. I wasn't there, man. And that was a decision that I had to make, man. And you know, I just wanted him, and I still want him, and that's why I'm still fighting now. I just want to show him, and I want him to be proud of me. And you know, I have a lot of regret with that, man. It's like getting to UFC was great, but it was very underwhelming. The whole experience was very underwhelming. And now at 35, I look back and think, was it worth it? But I mean, like there were times where it's like, man, I just want to quit, move back home, and spend it with my son. And not even just that relationship, the relationship with my parents. I only see my parents a couple times a year. Fortunately, before my dad died this past year, he moved out to Vegas and lived with me for 2 years. Relationships that I've ruined. Man, I'm 35 years old and I'm still single. You know what I mean? It sucks because I've ruined so many relationships from me being stubborn and putting my girlfriend to the side, or you know, fighting or training being more important than taking her to dinner, or hey, I'm putting my money into my training so I'm not, you know, we're not going on vacation or whatever it is. And girls don't like that shit. And I've ruined relationships. I missed out my son's childhood, my money perseverance. That I'm 35 years old, I'm still persevering through financial troubles right now. Like I put like it's no people it you man it was just so hard, man. And it still is hard. I'm still, and like I said, at 35 years old, I'm still battling with these demons that I have a lot of regret missing on my son's essentially his upbringing. You know, fortunately we have a great, you know, family circle between his mom and his stepdad and myself and my family and their family. But if I didn't have that, like, I don't know where I'd be today, man. And when you talk about just that, fuck the financial, f the relationships. I mean, I I'm not going to say I left my son because I've always been there for him, but I missed out on years of time with him because I chased this, and normal people can't and shouldn't do that.
You know what's it's crazy when you because I mean, I know your story obviously pretty well, but like when you lay it all like that, yeah, it's wild. And the cool thing for you at this point though now is all of that training and that knowledge and all those things you've acquired. You're one of the fighters that has translated it into a really high level coaching ability. And I can see it because I'm an academic coach, right? I'm a academic tutor. So I know what it means to be a really good teacher. And it's a lot of, it's a combination of a lot of factors and characteristics, but you've been able to transition that into that skill set. Plus, look what we're doing with 10-7, but also you've got a burgeoning career at commentating, and you're doing all these things. So to me, when I look at it from the outside, I can see you've built all these things that are now starting to fit together and are going to really, really build something fantastic. But maybe not all fighters have that. Sorry, what were we going to say?
No, yeah, real quick. Sorry, I cut you off. I want my last piece of, you know, it's in how I'm dealing with that time I missed out on his childhood. Is I'm in a situation right now to where, hey, Ben, you want to be a professional MMA fighter? I know the best MMA fighters in the world. I know the best coach in the world. Hey, Ben, you want to be a musician? A good friend of mine, Chris Kale, he's the bass player for Five Finger Death Punch. I work with him I just worked with him earlier today. You want to go into music? All right, here's a guy that can help you in that way. Oh, you want to be a professional football player? I trained Jerome Sapp's kids. All right, he played in the NFL for 8 years. He was the captain on the Colts. He was the captain on the Baltimore Ravens with Ray Lewis and Peyton Manning. You want to do that? Oh, hey, you want to be a baseball player? Any field he wants to do. I don't know a guy that's good in it. I know a guy that was the best at it in the world, and that's how I'm trying to make up for the years I missed, that time I've been put in grinding. Anything my son wants to do, anything. He wants to be a firefighter. I know the firefighter. I know the chief of the fire department down here. He wants to be a cop. I'm best. Joe Lombardo, who's the governor of Nevada. My best friend was his college roommate and his partner in Metro Police in Vegas. Any field that Ben wants to go to from he's 16 years old till he's an adult, I will have an avenue with the path of least resistance. And that's how I've justified it in my head. If I was at home, you know, spending time with him, you know, taking him to school, he wouldn't have these avenues. His mom and stepdad created it, and I was a part of his life a lot. I see him all the time. I see him. I mean, you've met him. Like, it's not that I wasn't there. I mean, I was there, but on the day-to-day stuff, his mom and his stepdad. But during while they were doing that, I was how I've justified it in my head and how I've cleared my conscience is like, look, and now I can provide him with paths that I never had, that you never had, that 99.9% of the population never had. And it's not just in MMA, it's in anything he wants to do. And he needs to understand that and see the value in that.
Yeah, I think there's one other element too. Look, I'm not a father, so I'm commenting from a outside perspective. Although I work with a lot of kids and I know a lot of families, but one thing that I can say, which I think is very important, and this is something that I try to champion myself as a mentor for a lot of students, is you've got to teach by showing, not just by telling. So, for example, if you want your son to pursue a lot of high level dreams, you got to do it yourself. You got to at least get out there and try and put everything on the line. So I think by setting that example, that's probably one of the most powerful things you can do. I try to do the exact same thing with my students, and just the way that I carry myself, how hard I work, etc. Because you can tell somebody, yo, you need to work hard all day, and it just not it's meaningless. It's meaningless. It's the same way that I choose who to take advice from at this point in my life. If somebody's giving me advice that they haven't put into practice, it's in one ear, out the other, as it should be. But if it's somebody that I look at their lifestyle and there's components of it that I'm like, dang, you have something that I would love to have, of course I'm going to listen to. Justin, I listen to, obviously, when we're talking about Muay Thai, striking, fighting, commentating, you know, all these other elements where I can see you have a clear expertise. You're the person that I want to listen to. So anyways, my point is, with all those struggles and trials and tribulations and what you've done to chase your dreams, I feel like you have to recognize that that can be one of the biggest teachers and life lessons for your son or anybody's children out there. It's just showing by example. So a lot of credit there. And yeah, man, it's crazy. As people are saying, hey, great show. You really bared your here. Wait, let me show this. Justin bearing his soul. Appreciate you, man. Yeah, this is hopefully what part of the show is about, is to get this fighter insight. This is one of the reasons why I wanted to do the show, because I wanted more insight into the world of fighting that I find so fascinating. And we might hear stories from other folks out there who are on Ariel Helwani's show or this and that, but now you get to hear from Justin, the people that he knows, other reporters and things like that, a more inside look into one of the most famous, if not the most famous gym on the planet, Extreme Couture. So that's what this is all about. We're going to
journalism. Think about it. John Morgan is a really good friend of mine. I commentate with him. I just trained with Oscar Willis this morning, one of the best journalists in MMA. Like,
oh yeah,
Ben, you want to, you know, eventually, if you know, I've talked about this. Eventually, I mean, our 10-7 podcast is growing so fast. Like, by the time he's an adult, you know, in the next 2-3 years, I mean, we're gonna have something special. He wants to be a part of that. I'd love to have him a part of it. You know, I'm sure you'd love to too. You know, and then, you know, he wants to go into journalism, like any avenue he wants. I've opened doors for him, and I just need to make sure that he takes advantage, because, you know, I didn't have the advantage that he's going to have, and that's my gift to him.
hey, is this Izzy Slots guy? Do you know him? Because you were talking about how you make money, and then he goes, you said, hey, I got private classes.
It's Roman. It's Roman.
Oh, did you know that before?
He told me yesterday.
Oh, because he's like, you made some poker profits. Yeah, that's right. And then he goes, Izzy Slots. And he made another comment. He goes, oh, shoot, we lost Justin. He said, if Ben wants to be a pro slot player, that's right. Because I remember when we were in Montana, Justin was telling me about how you do the slots. Anyways, I think we may have lost Justin there. Andrew Nance says, shout out to Extreme Couture. Let's go. Hey, guys. Oh, let me show Prince comment, and then we're going to wrap up with fighting. Whoa, Justin's back. With fighting, what you put in and what you get out can also be extremely unfair compared to most jobs. You can be on point, do everything right, and just run into the early version of John Jones. Yeah, man, that's why it's the craziest game. That's why I hate, you know, as turbulent and tumultuous as it is for the fighters, I have to say that's why it's so intriguing from a fan perspective, because it's insane. It's people doing things that you wish you had the courage or the balls to do. I mean, frankly, I think that's
I just had this conversation the other day with a doctor, and he's talking about medical school and how hard medical school was, and it took him, you know, 8 to 10 years to become a doctor. But here's the thing. He says if he passed all his tests and does all for the rest of his life, the minimum amount of money he's going to make is 250 grand. So and that's the minimum for the rest of his life, is what he told me. And so let's think about that. All right, hey, I'm going to dedicate 10 years, and if I put everything I got into 8 to 10 years and getting my medical degree, becoming my doctorate in whatever field it is, at the end of that, I'm going to have 250 grand for the rest of my life. You can do everything perfect in MMA and make less than $5,000. Like, I put my whole heart and soul into it since I was 17 years old. I didn't make any money till I was 30, and I'm never going to make any money competing, at least the money I was making in UFC, ever again. You know what I mean? Like, and that's the thing, and that's the crazy part about MMA, is nothing is guaranteed. You can do everything perfect, and you just make a wrong reaction. You blink at the wrong time, you're knocked out, and you lose your job, and you lose all your money. And that's the crazy part about MMA, man. It's like becoming a doctor is very, very, very tough. I couldn't imagine the studying and everything you have to do, but if you persevere and you're able to get through those 8 to 10 years, maybe 12 years, maybe longer, you're guaranteed something at the end. MMA guarantees you nothing but heartache.
Woo, that is heavy. Now, by the way, people are saying, hey, this is guaranteed and that's guaranteed. We don't know what's going to happen with AI. A lot of these roles may be gone in the next 5 years. So what we used to think is guaranteed may no longer be. Wait, Izzy says, please explain what tumultuous means. Did I mispronounce tumultuous? I was trying to say tumultuous. I don't know. I might be slurring right now. I've been having this issue, especially when I'm dehydrated, dude. I don't know. I got my blood taken today. I'm seeing a neurologist. I'm trying to figure out what's going on. Is my brain power slipping away or something going on? Let's hope not. Okay, a couple more comments. We're going to wrap up. What do you guys think? We did over an hour today. Hope you got, we got a lot of people on. So thank you guys all for all the comments and the engagement. We're trying to do our best. I'm trying to do my best as the show's going on to read the comments live and respond. Could I be doing a better job? Let me know. But I really appreciate. Oh, Izzy said I misspelled it. LOL. Okay, so I thought maybe I like slurred my words or something. And then Robert says, Habib said that you have to sacrifice family life if you want to be the best. I mean, you said that, and I mean, he said that, and you say that that's how they approach their camps. Yeah, man, it's crazy. Well, just a reminder, let me end it. Robert says, great show. Let me end it. Thank you, Robert.
Thanks, Robert.
We appreciate you. Let me end it on this note. Going back to all these things that we talked about, this is why this sport is it's nothing compares to it. I don't watch. My buddies last night were talking about this NBA player and this game and these players. I'm like, dude, I don't know a single name because I can't. Nothing compares to this sport. It's on a different level. And then you take all the drama and the crazy stuff and the Bryce Mitchell controversy and the Anthony Smith versus TJ Dillashaw. They're talking back and forth. I mean, like, it's just the wildest, most interesting sport in the world. And any UFC fighter can beat up any other professional athlete on the planet. So I don't know, like that's kind of cool to me too. Like, hey, when it comes to every athlete wants to flex in some way, like they're tough and they're bad and they're this and they're that. And then when it comes to the UFC, they are the baddest people. So to me, it's just the pinnacle of sports in competition. That's the way I feel about it. I hope you guys feel that same way too. Let me know if you disagree. Anyways, that's all we got for today's show. It was a fun one. Justin, thank you for joining, guys. Thank you so much for joining. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. And I know Western asked earlier if you guys could like this stream. If you could like the stream before you sign off, that would really help us grow. We are growing. We've almost tripled our size in the last month, which is bananas, or month and a half. But we're continuing to grind. Last but not least, Justin has his fight next Friday. Bare knuckle debut. This is going to be crazy in Missoula, Montana. I know MGal4 Production says he's going to be there. If anybody else wants to come and show your support, I'll be commentating. Justin's going to be the headliner fighting in that event. And man, these events are super, super fun. So let us know your thoughts. And that's all we got. Thank you guys so much for joining. Celine says, you're the best, guys. You're the only one to make me wake up in the middle of the night. Let's go, Celine. Andrew Nance says, let's effing go. And
Andrew, thank you.
That's all we got. Thank you guys so much.
Hey, also, guys, I want to thank you guys for disagreeing too. Like, like I think it was Andrew or Robert early on said he doesn't agree with me. And I love that, man, because we can have great conversations of why I feel the way you do, and you guys can comment the way you do, and that's and again, just because we're here saying what we think doesn't mean we're right, and we appreciate all the comments. And even if you don't agree with us, giving your 2 cents, we love it, man. We love the conversation.
100%. Thank you guys. So, and Justin's training videos are coming soon. We're almost ready to launch. Okay.
I was gonna say that too. It's like I've been slacking just with.
You got to fight. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I've been focused on this fight. I might just pull. I was supposed to do it yesterday. I was supposed to do it the day before that. I just keep I just been really tired, guys. If we can wait till after my fight, but I'm gonna get those training
100%.
videos out. I'm gonna start with like 10 of them. They're not gonna be long, only a couple minutes long, but it's gonna be very basic lateral movement, front movement, and just little drills you guys can do on your own.
Amazing. All right. Thank you guys so much for joining. Have a great weekend, and we will see you guys in the next episode. Take it easy.